Welcome to Registered, the podcast of the Catholic Register, where we'll be taking a look at the stories that graced all of our platforms over the past week. I'm Mickey Conlon, editor of the Register, alongside reporter Luke Mandato. This week's episode is brought to you by QS Travel and Tours, which creates unforgettable, spiritually enriching Catholic group pilgrimages. Travel with confidence and walk where the saints walk. Learn more, call 905-412-2242 or visit www.qstours.com now. Welcome, Luke. No Quentin. Again, he's on his extended break, taking a nice, well-deserved vacation over the Christmas time. So I hope you had yourself a Merry Christmas. We did at the old Conlon household. We're very much so. Very happy, always to celebrate Christmas every year.
Absolutely. So same here. Same for the Mandatos.
Good. So this week we're gonna do things just a little bit differently because we had our break last week. We're just going to talk a little bit, kind of about the year past. This is our year in review, and we had it pretty easy this year to come up with a story about what really happened this year. But geez, I kind of forget what was it? What was the big story this week? Oh, that's right. We had a new pope, didn't we, this year? Yeah.
Right.
Welcome to Pope Leo XIV. So, and unfortunately, the death of Pope Francis, who for 12 years led the Catholic Church. He had his own unique story to tell during those 12 years. I think we all kind of knew that Pope Francis, he'd shown for many years actually deteriorating health. We even saw it when he visited Canada in 2022. He was wheelchair bound. And it's like, okay, well, he was in his 80s, so it's to be expected. When it was announced that Pope Francis passed, well, you were somewhere doing something, weren't you?
That's right. This is actually when the conclave was taking place. Yeah, when Pope Leo was announced. That was when Pope Francis had passed, Mickey. The first I had heard was from you. It was Easter. If I recall correctly, it was our Easter weekend. It was Easter Monday that he had passed. If I recall correctly, does that timeline add up with you?
It was April 21st. I know that. I can't remember. You know what? That is probably right. That's probably right because he had just given his final Urbe oh my God, I can't even remember what Urbe, the blessing in Rome, and
Right.
it would be his final one. So
That's right. I remember we were supposed to be out of the office that day, and I woke up. It was early from a text from you that said, Luke, wake up, busy day, get to the computer. We got a busy day ahead of us. So that is definitely when the news broke. And I just remember it was this weird sort of thing that I think a lot of people in news deal with. I'm sure you've dealt with it, where you're upset by the news you're covering. You want to read more about it, but at the same time, you're the one trying to track down some of the details and find some people to talk to about it, right? So
yeah,
that was very interesting when that all took place. And then, as you'd said, when the conclave came to its conclusion, you're right. I was down in the streets of Ottawa, covering the Ottawa March for Life, and this was something that you said the death of Pope Francis kind of took over, and the new Pope story took over our year in review. This was an event that completely took over the March for Life. It was almost like I got a phone call from you, and you said, do a little something for that, but forget that. We got bigger news coming now. The white smoke is out, right? So it was definitely an interesting experience to kind of flip the news cycle on its head and just start, seeing everyone realize that the news had broken all at once was interesting for sure.
and of course you were in Ottawa with Peter Stockland, who was our editor and publisher at the time, and I guess the two of you got your heads together and said, yeah, okay, there's bigger news, bigger fish to fry here, and you did it. So
That's right. He had just wrapped up taking photos, and he said, get to a coffee shop. I don't care if the Wi-Fi, you got to ask for the Wi-Fi password. Get somewhere you can sit down and start typing, because some big news just broke. So yeah, definitely interesting. Something I'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, and of course it was huge news, and the fact that we've got an American Pope who, forever it seemed everyone was an Italian that was a Pope. And then, of course, came John Paul II, the Polish Pope, the great Polish Pope, and then followed by the German Pope, Benedict XIV, old Joseph Ratzinger. And then Francis, he is Argentine, but you Italian guys, hey, you claim him as one of your own, right? Always. He was the Italian Borgoglio, or however it's pronounced. So, so that's why that shocked an awful lot of people. And I know I was down in the U.S. at the time when it happened, and I believe it was CNN I was watching when it's like, oh, there it is. It's Cardinal Prevost. And the first thing that came to my mind was, who? I did not know in any which way who this man was. And apparently a lot of people were the same way, which I'm sure happens often when a new pope comes in. Not so much when Pope Benedict came in. Everyone knew who he was, but this was someone new. And I think a lot of people really appreciate, especially here in North America, appreciate, hey, maybe we're being recognized finally by the church. And, I just some of the conversations I've had with people, one of the ones that was kind of the funniest one I heard was, well, at least it's a pope who speaks real English now. And I found that a little funny, but, he's, say what you may. The one thing about him is this is a man who shown his love for the church, shown his love for the people, and he's carried on as his predecessors has. We've seen it. A lot of people actually seem to think that this is very much a continuation of the Francis papacy. Anything you see in that?
Yeah, it's something we've looked into as a paper for sure, is just kind of that, is this going to be something completely different? Is this going to be something, like you said, a continuation? And I think you said he showed his love for the church, and it's something that he kind of showed right away. So when I was down in Ottawa, I was covering a youth event the next day for that March for Life. And of course, that sort of turned into go see what the youth think about this guy. And while a lot of them had no idea yet really who he was or what he stood for, it's funny you mentioned he's American. I remember a few gentlemen saying, all I know about him is he's a White Sox fan. Yeah. All I know, I read he's a White Sox fan, from being from Chicago, right? But the biggest thing that I think people realized right away is what you said, is that he does kind of have this sort of air of continuation about him, where it feels kind of like where Pope Francis left off, and definitely in some of his talks and some of the things he's brought forward seem to be a continuation of that. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but he does show that love for the faith and for his church, and it's something that he showed, I think, right from the first day he spoke to the public, right? And it's something that's continued.
Well, in the long run, you got to look at it. They're always going to continue from their predecessor. And when I talk predecessor, we're going right back to Peter. St. Peter.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, what else would anyone expect from a pope, other than to, all right, let's look out for the good people of the world. Let's, love your neighbor as you'd have them love you. A special thing in their heart for the poor, which, of course, we saw in the apostolic exhortation, Dilexite Te, which, of course, was begun by Pope Francis, but he died mid-writing. And, well, look who took over. Pope Leo, and he just continued it. And probably the best line I saw about that, Canadian Cardinal Michael Cherney was asked when it came out, all right, what percentage did Pope Leo add to the original? What was Cherney's response? It is 100% Francis and it is 100% Leo. Well, the math may not add up, but you know, both men, just like their predecessors before them, they see the church's love for the poor in the same light. Love for the poor. Here's, as Pope Leo would write, love for the poor, whatever form their poverty may take, is the evangelical hallmark of a church faithful to the heart of God. I am convinced that the preferential choice for the poor is a source of extraordinary renewal, both for the church and for society. If we can only set ourselves free of our self-centeredness and open our ear to their cry. Well, you know what? That's exactly what I would have expected to hear from each and every one of the 266 popes we've had through the years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having your own style and your own background is always interesting, but it really is the greatest case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. And I think that's exactly what Pope Leo has done. And we're so happy now looking back on the year to have a pontiff that is carrying that message through with him as so many did before him.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? And speaking continuity, and this is a bit of a lot of people in Toronto would remember this 23 years ago when we had World Youth Day. And, you know, one of the first things that Pope Leo was thrust into was taking over the Jubilee events. And one of them was the Jubilee of Youth. And what's the one of the first things that Leo told all the youth that were there? You will be the salt of the earth, light of the world. Well, go back to 2002 in Toronto when Pope John Paul was here. That's exactly what he told the people for World Youth Day. So there we go. We're continuing. Hey, and let's hope that they always continue in that same vein. So, well, other than that, what are you know, the church? There was an awful lot that did go on. It always does, and the Jubilee year is going to be one of them. Unfortunately, it was somewhat trumped by Pope Leo and the death of Pope Francis. But I credit to the new Pope who pretty well seamlessly, you know, he just woke up one day and it's like, all right, here. You're taking over this schedule for the Jubilee, and very seamlessly he seemed to do it. So, but how about outside of the Pope Francis and Pope Leo? What are some of the most memorable things you worked on this year?
Yeah, thanks, Mickey. It's been an interesting sort of look back when I knew I was gonna take a look at some of the things I had worked on this year. It's so funny because people in my family and my friends will ask me, you know, right after we've gone to print, oh, what did you work on this week? Anything interesting? And my brain, I just, you know, you're working on so much at once, you kind of forget immediately what you wrote. It's hard for me to remember what I wrote for our Christmas issue, let alone earlier this year, right? But no, you're right. There's a lot of great stuff that myself, Quentin, and all of our other great writers had worked on this year. For me, some of the big things that come to mind were sort of the breaking of Bill 33. Here in Ontario, as that continues to develop, what that looks like for Catholic education in the province. That Tyler's Family Homes feature that I had recently worked on, the Catholic Charities had pointed out to us, just a lovely feature. Always great when you get to talk to someone personally affected by something and some of the solutions they're looking for. That was a really nice one. Going back to, I believe, July for Grandparents' Day, I got to write a feature sort of with my own family and what honoring a Catholic grandparent's legacy looks like. That was a very enjoyable, and I think it's framed somewhere here in my house from my Nona might have it framed somewhere down in the hallway here.
Nice.
And then, of course, yeah, that coverage of the new Pope in Ottawa with the March for Life going on at the same time was fantastic. And then I guess an outlier, really, if I had to pick one more, was the Toronto Blue Jays Field of Dreams when they were able to give that new baseball diamond to the Catholic field. I think it was St. Aloysius out in Stratford, Ontario. That was in July, probably, yeah, around the end of the summer. And to just sort of see that great story with a little Catholic tie-in as they went on their march to October this year. We don't have to talk too much about that, unfortunately. I'm still reeling from the loss, but that was a very interesting one, and I think a great thing that the Jays do. So that's a handful. I'm sure there's many more that I'm missing that were super impactful. But we had a good year this year, I would say. Lots of different things, lots of different niches and beats. So Catholic news is everywhere, Mickey. It's a great thing.
It certainly is. And, even into our federal election, which to me, of course, is going to be always going to be a big thing for Canada. We've got ourselves a new prime minister, a Catholic prime minister, just like our previous Catholic prime minister, though you wouldn't know that he was very Catholic. But Mark Carney, he's very proud. He wears it on his sleeve. Hey, I'm a good Catholic. Um, you know, I'm not a big fan of the Liberal Party. I think anyone who read my post election screed about it can would tell you that. But that I do see that Mark Carney, he could be better. We're still looking. We're looking because he still has a lot of the same romper room people that Justin Trudeau had surrounding him, and of course, Trudeau was the head of romper room. Didn't have a clue, had the worst 10 years in the history of Canada. But hopefully, Mark Carney's showing signs of being better for Canada. We will see, and especially moving into the new year, which brings me to story you just did in our last issue about a Catholic New Year. Why don't you tell us what a Catholic New Year looks like?
Yeah, this was a very interesting one. This was kind of an idea on the heels of that Catholic Halloween story I did at the end of October there, just about what the holiday might mean to Catholics that it may not mean to the rest of the secular world. Turns out not a whole lot. Of course, January 1st being the feast day, the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. That was something that was sort of a launching point into this story. But when I had spoken with the few people that I spoke to in that story, they said, enjoy yourselves, have a good time with your loved ones, enjoy a drink, enjoy some fireworks, enjoy the celebration, but use that period sort of as a time to reflect on the year, as we sort of have here, Mickey. Use it as a time for prayer, giving thanks for the year, and if you're going to make resolutions, make sure they're based in prayer, make sure they're based in reflection, move into the new year with not only a sense of excitement and celebration, but also a calmness, a reaffirmed belief in God, and see where that takes you when January rolls around. Apparently, if you are able to take the time to reflect and to pray properly, your January is going to look mighty different than waking up with a champagne hangover as some other people might, right? So
Right.
Very interesting story, and we wish everyone a very happy new year as well.
Yes. A good advice to people, and definitely a happy new year to everyone. And well, I think that probably wraps it up for us. This being we've been doing this for about 3.5 months now, I believe. We're making some small steps. We think we've got it down pat here, doing the registered every week, but we're looking to improve things coming in the new year. So please, people, tune in and see what we have new to offer you. Hopefully, it's going to be to your liking. Drop us a line to let us know if it is. So thank you very much for joining us for Registered. Thank you, Luke. And thanks to Quentin, who's not here. Thanks to Peter Stockland, who's been a guest several times, and some of the other guests we've had along the way. So meanwhile, for all your Catholic news, be sure to stay informed at catholicregister.org. And again, we'd like to wish you all a very, very happy New Year. And we will see you, I guess, in another 2 weeks' time. We're taking another week off. So probably around January 11th or so, we will drop the next Registered. Please tune in. And thanks very much.